Hong Kong was hit by Typhoon Saola on September 1, 2023, and it was, well, super. It was rated locally as a Typhoon 10, the highest rating there is, and the first one since 2018. That said, the public was advised to stay in, so like any normal human being, I stayed home watching Netflix, but nothing interesting was on, and no one to chill with. So the idiot in me thought to put on my hoodie, pack on my Sony 24-70 G Master Mark II, hook on my Osmo Action chest mount, and get myself wet instead, because at this point, even my sense of humor is becoming dry.
Let's do some Typhoon street photography.
At first, I thought it wasn't that bad with just some light rain, and I didn't really feel the wind at that point. And of course, the streets were extremely less crowded. Given that I'm in the city center, this is quite unusual. Of which I thought the few people around would be good subjects to give the feeling of isolation. I quite like the images of these men sitting on the side and supported by the eerie atmosphere of their surroundings, though these didn't particularly represent an impending super typhoon and looked like your typical rainy day photos. The rain also gave me an idea to have some light reflections on the foreground, and having the raindrops give some cinematic feel. On this composition, the reds of the taxi cabs parked gave a pleasing color contrast with the greens of the office in my opinion, and then I found a nice skyscraper framed between two buildings with a mid-ground bridge and the empty streets with some rubble. This is going to be my last shot of the night because, well, a trash bin was flying off and the wind started to howl. The next morning, the typhoon signal was lowered down to 8, which still meant everything was closed, streets will be empty, but winds are a lot less severe. So I decided to go on my morning walk and check out the aftermath. The roads were blocked by rubble because Typhoon Saola didn't want to keep clear. I'm so punny. I waited on some red cars and taxis to pass by to make them pop out in isolation. That made these photos look a little bit post-apocalyptic. Again, I was drawn by the color contrast brought by the reds in the surrounding tree wreckages, so here I am trying to be a James Popsis by taking photos of rubbish bins. I then arrived this empty walkway, being unsure why I'm still holding my umbrella on covered grounds, but the pillars and sunroofs gave some interesting shadow and light details, quite like a spotlight effect. The pillars also gave a decent framing of the harbor and city skyline view with some ominous looking clouds from the present typhoon. Walking by one of the world's most photographed harbors, it was very unusual seeing it so empty on a weekend morning, except of course for this brave auntie savoring the typhoon breeze. I also snapped this photo of the 5-star hotel I am trying to annoy on social media with my moon photos. Subscribe and check it out later. It's a really fun one. This yellow lonely boy also caught my minimalist attention. Being again sheltered from the rain inside the walkways, I can now take a little bit more time to wait for subjects to pass by some interesting compositions. Just like through this window where a soul inspector roams the street and I could time his position such that his reflection from the mirror above is also caught. The patterns on this bridge caught my eyes because of all the lines and how the post splits the frame into two. So I just had to wait for this couple walking their dog to pass by. Speaking of walking, it seems Hong Kong residents are really an active bunch where despite all that aftermath, they can't afford to miss out on cardio days. Just look at this granny, quite committed to her Tai Chi. Quite lucky I guess for a street photography walk, and I think I'm going to call it a day because even this bus stop has had enough. So see you around and thanks for watching.